Hey guys, we're really excited for this next podcast with Matt Jones, and he's created a groundbreaking idea in the global pandemic and taken his years of experience of buying and selling and transformed it into something revolutionary. He does have a background of being the #1 rated auction salesperson for Ray White in a calendar year, and when he was property trading, he bought and sold over 90 properties within 1 year, and that generated around $7 million plus of revenue for his trading company. Now, during the lockdown, he did see an opportunity to launch Independent Agent, which is a new type of real estate agency, and it's a new concept that is a new face of real estate over New Zealand. Right now, they've got a team of 40, and they've got a focus on autonomy, efficiency, and authenticity. And he's giving agents more freedom, and he feels that this brings better outcomes and leads to more freedom for the agents involved. So get ready to hear about how this man's vision is reshaping an entire industry. Thanks for your time, Matt. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Lawrence. I super appreciate being here.
Yeah.
And look forward to chatting with you over the next little while.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. To kick things off, Matt, I'd want to just delve a bit into, say, your start into, say, the real estate career. You started off in teaching, and then what made you switch, or how did that all begin? Where did that start from?
It's quite funny. We were at I was at a barbecue. I turned up with my wife at the time in a crappy Toyota Corolla I bought for $2,000.
Yeah.
The other guys at the barbecue are friends of mine from school and friends of friends and other bits and pieces, and they all turned up in late model, brand new Holden Commodores.
Yeah.
This is back in the late 90s, and I was maybe early 2000s, and I was a school teacher, and I looked at these guys and I looked at the incomes they were making, like 3, 4, 5 times my income as a school teacher.
Yeah.
And that was probably sowed the seed of like, oh, there's a whole lot more out there. Teaching, I was running into a few barriers with that. It's a highly controlled environment with a very clear ceiling. And I'd only been in it a couple of years, not unlike your real estate career where you sort of take off and you're suddenly getting piled with responsibility.
Yeah.
So I was in that space in teaching.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's a very few short jumps I'll make over the next short period, and I'll be offering, I'll be trying to get a principal's job. And I was like, well, there's a ceiling there. There's no ceiling in real estate. And I think it was the no ceiling. No ceiling that was the attraction for me. Like literally, there's no ceiling.
Yeah. Just unlimited. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So you basically the first initial one was, let's go get some money and see how much we can make to give yourself more financial freedom in the future. Absolutely. And more opportunities.
For sure.
Yeah.
But that's that challenge you can set yourself too. So I'm not massively money driven, but I'm massively challenge driven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did the first, say, couple of years look like when you were with Ray White?
No, I was with for the first year I was with City Sales.
Okay.
And that's where my mates were working.
Yeah.
So that's run by a guy, Martin. It was run then by a guy, Martin Dunn. He sort of founded the apartment selling on sale market. There was Barfoots and there was City Sales.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he had a very aggressive approach to marketing. He was an auction man. He had figured out that auctions was the way to sell apartments when there's thousands and thousands of them.
Yeah.
And they're all the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So an auction was the way to make that work.
Yeah.
But a year there, culturally, I just wasn't entirely happy because of the hardline stance. And in the background, there was a Ray White office opening, and I managed to get, and I think as the second or third sort of salesperson there.
Okay, so quite a new team over there.
A new team of experienced people. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you've kind of you achieved success relatively quickly in that field. Like, how long did it take to get to where you were in terms of, you got 12, 13 in the whole country for Ray White?
Yeah.
How did that journey?
That would have been in the mid 2000s. Damien Piggott and I partnered up. Our little goal there was to, he came to Ray White as well, and our goal was to take what City Sales was doing, their strategies, and to see if we could emulate that with just the two of us. So that was our sort of, could we have as much impact on the market by using those strategies that they're using, and get a really grunty market share, and that was sort of our target. That was our goal. So we did a lot of letter writing.
Yeah.
We did a lot of letter sending, because that's how you get hold of owners and apartments.
In apartments, okay.
And we spent thousands and thousands on that, and that was great. There was also an enormous amount of support from the office. Phil Horrobin owned that office, and there was an enormous amount of support there. They went and committed to things like full pages in the Herald, which is was the place where that was advertised for apartments. So all those things working together, and we got a growth award. I was just speaking to Damien earlier. We got a growth award, we got a marketing award, and we got the 12th and 13th, I think, sort of.
Interesting. And you got the number one, say, auction conductor team in 1 year.
That's correct. Yeah, we would take out a whole page of the Herald, and there would be on the Saturday Herald, and there'd be auction, and a couple of price things floating around. And
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so good. Wow. Yeah. And what, in terms of lots of letters and volume, how many were you doing?
So a building could have between 200 and 500 properties in it, and we'd just have a cycle of we were sending thousands and thousands of letters. I can't give you a number, but thousands
per week or per month.
On a regular schedule. So we had a PA, we just had a schedule, and they just ran through it, and we'd be signing them by hand.
Oh, right.
Then they'd get stuffed.
That personal touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thousands a month anyway, at least.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So it came down to that volume game at the end of the day. It's the more you put out, the more you're going to get back, and it is just volume.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's very good. And then you're doing all these letters, and you sold quite a lot of property during then.
Yeah.
That kind of set you up with the knowledge of the markets to then begin investing. That's kind of how did that start?
So the path went. It was quite a snaky path. I've created quite a snaky path, and part of a twisted path, and a lot of that is my, as I said to you earlier, setting myself challenges or looking at things not necessarily through a financial lens, for better or for worse. Yeah. And I think so. I would get restless and dissatisfied at some point. I lost focus. I lost focus in sales, and I think that can happen after a period of time. For whatever reason, I lost focus. Yeah. And sitting in the background for me is always is art and creativity. And I was doing quite a bit of looking into. I play guitar, and I had a guitar friend, and he was gigging. And I thought, well, could I start gigging? So a number of things combined. After a few years of some good success, I thought, well, maybe I'll give this music thing a go. So it was a bit of a change of direction, and that lasted. That lasted for, and I'm obviously skipping plenty out here, but that lasted for about a year. Yeah. So I was a full-time musician for a year, but in the process, fell victim to all sorts of lifestyle vices, and shall we say? And my good friend who I'd met when I was selling apartments. Paul Reed, he said, you've got to stop what you're doing. You've got to get out of this. Yeah. He had formed this company that was flipping apartments, Iconicity, and he said, I want you to come and join me. I'm going to pay you a salary. You need to stop doing this. You need to get yourself better. Yeah. And put your skills that you've got many of after many years being a pretty important player in the apartment game there, selling wise. Yeah. Come and work for me. So that's what I decided to do. Okay. So Paul was flipping apartments. He had a goal and he already had started to build a sales team. Yeah. So he was going out buying properties at auctions, apartments at auctions. Yeah. And he'd be a great person for you to talk to. Yeah. He was buying, and he had an office. So he'd set himself up with an office and a PA. Yeah. And he was bringing them in through the agents and putting them back out through the agents. But obviously, when you're doing those kind of things, and they're sometimes quite small margins, you've obviously got a big commission cut there. Yeah. And he was saying, well, if I have an internal team on salary, maybe I can avoid that. So, and then he started thinking, well, maybe I can also buy stuff cheaper if I can have a private acquisition element to the business. And that was kind of me, as well as leading the sales team and sometimes just helping with the flow of people and information and bits and pieces. So sort of a general manager role there.
I see. Interesting. Okay. So he was trying to shave down different costs.
Yep.
And he was also, it was a real estate company that you were operating, or
It wasn't a licensed real estate
was
agency. It
just
was simply privately buying and selling.
So you're privately selling them at the end of the day as
Privately selling them with a sales team on salary.
I see.
To avoid the commissions, and so to avoid the REA, laws, to avoid the laws. Not to avoid laws, but to fit within the laws.
Yeah.
Like a developer with a more like a developer function.
Just a developer with your own, basically
with their own sales team.
Their own sales team.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, shouldn't touch the mic. So with that, we started. Part of that role was to privately acquire. So again, the same method, selling using letters.
Yeah.
Sending out letters to people.
Okay.
And that upset a few agents, but soon enough there was enough volume anyway, and they obviously still had access to the stock at the other end as well.
Yeah, I see.
And
Was your primary? Were you getting most of your leads through letters through privately, or was it also on market, or was it maybe split?
Split. Yeah, split pretty. Probably still more real estate agents acquired properties like through real estate agents. So that business, Paul and I would get the phone call when there was a deal to be had, someone needing to sell quickly, and we could come in and price something immediately and make an unconditional offer. That's how, or else obviously bid at auctions. Yeah.
I see. So most of your deals were unconditional offers, just to cash on the table, take it now.
Yeah.
Did you do a lot of renovating during that period?
So we would do the either purchase it, settle it, and renovate it, or purchase it with access prior to renovate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. And the one year you rated, you were doing probably about 132 of those in 1 year. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. It was
about
certainly
3 a week.
Yeah, there was certainly some volume. And then we had I think at Kenyon-Slade we had a sales team of 4 or 5 salespeople.
Yeah.
And so they were obviously running around, plus the agents selling. There was a bit of competition. Who would get there first? Who would the agent sell it? Would the internal team sell it?
Yeah.
But yeah, busy, good times, fun times, definitely.
Yeah. So you were doing 132 sales. I worked out that was kind of around about $7 million revenue.
Wow.
In 1 year.
Yeah.
That
amazing,
you did.
isn't it?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I guess. So, and there was I'm not sure if you came across the Herald article. I can probably flick it over to you, but it was discussed. Kenyon-Slade was in there, and when I went out on my own and did the same thing, my company was in there as well. Plus a few of the South Auckland traders probably still around. They were in that article as well.
Yeah.
But when you're the media obviously always puts a slant on that, but by the time you take off a renovation and you take off a commission.
Yeah.
You take off GST because it's all GST registered stuff. You're claiming on the way in and paying on the way out.
Yeah.
And also just tax in general. So there's obviously a lot of costs there as well.
Yeah, I see. Because it was about 55K was your difference that they worked out, but you've got in that 55K you've got your team, the GST 15%.
Yeah.
So you kind of could dwindle down to maybe 20K or something along those lines.
And what got me out of it at the end of it, and Paul went on and made he's got a golden touch. That man, he jumped out of apartment trading, decided to add on a few zeros.
Yeah.
And went into commercial flipping.
Okay.
By doing a number, restructuring deals and making money that way.
Yeah.
And that left space in the apartment market, which I moved into.
Okay.
And so with my own funding and some funding from him and some other people we knew, I started flipping myself.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that, but it's more of the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think when it came down to the end of it, and the reason I got out of it, was those margins were getting tighter as more flippers were coming into the market.
Yeah.
So I would often be making less money than a real estate agent, for example.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, given my risk that I'm taking, I didn't feel that was a good idea.
Yeah.
Every time the government picked up their pen and made any adjustment to the property market, there were some massive ones for the apartment market, particularly the changes, LVR changes from 65% to 70% to 80%, made huge changes in that market for investors particularly.
Yeah.
The foreign buyer ban was enormous.
Oh, wow.
There was a lot of overseas interest in apartments always. You could always sell an apartment to someone overseas.
Interesting.
Be they from China, there was a whole group of New Caledonians that would buy, Americans would buy, so that just killed that, like overnight, gone.
Yeah.
And so dealing within that was frustrating for me, and my risk appetite sort of dried up for it.
Yeah, okay. So you kind of, your potential income drops, and then you just saw those less opportunity continuing there.
In saying that, I'd moved out to the country. I'd moved out to Puhoi, where I still lived. I lost a little bit of interest in it, and again, this is a theme that you'll see. I sort of lost a bit of interest in real estate. Went into music. Got out of that. Got into this. That's my desire for new things, for fresh ideas, but also trying to find. We're all trying to find our way, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of that cycle of flipping properties, and the margins were lower and I was less interested, my sort of goal would be to try and buy it, renovate it and sell it without seeing it. And so when you lose interest in something like that, you've got to look at yourself and say, what are you actually doing? When my mates were making some good money in real estate still, so I cast my eyes across back to real estate as an option, because it's what I know.
So you, going back to the flipping side, you didn't view a lot of them in person before you bought them?
No, once you've seen an apartment in a building, they're often duplicated. Like the townhouses that are being built out here. I imagine if you've seen one of them, you know what the rest of them in the subdivision are like. Same thing. You can sort of know where the view line's going to be by the level it's on, and by the number of the apartment, you sort of know they're built just in columns, so you don't really need to see them.
I see.
You can buy them off photos often.
Okay, so your whole job was basically at a computer doing phone calls and coordinating, and that's your whole job every day. It's just, you're not really out in the fields checking out things. You've got the team doing the renos. You got that all set in, and you're just coordinating. And then the money's just coming in the accounts.
Well, that's the idea. And it doesn't sound so bad, does it?
Yeah. Very good. So then you decided, all right, so you just weren't getting value out of that position, and
I wasn't, and
weren't getting fulfilled.
To be fair, there's people in that space still that are doing flipping, and they're still managing to make money from what I can understand. So it's a combination of where I was at, I think personally, and what I was seeing and what I was feeling there, and wanting to get into something else. So yes, my next step after that was interestingly back to Ray White. Interesting. So a good friend of mine wanted me to come and have a look at his office, and he was, I wanted to do it too. Come and have a look at and he was building a team. Daniel Horriban from the city office was building a team to start the Wynyard Quarter office, and I thought it might be good to try to help with that.
I see.
And
that didn't last too long?
No, it wasn't too long. It was about 6 months of doing that. You'd be interested in this space. So I'm driving from Puhoi every day to the city. And I know you listen to podcasts. I know you read books. And one of the things that started coming in my head was that, man, this drive is killing me. Man, this drive is actually killing me. This drive is killing me. And when you say something to yourself enough, it really starts getting into your head, right? And so I said, well, that's not. I can't keep saying this to myself. So what I thought I'd do is, it might have been a bit of Tony Robbins, or it might have been a bit of Tim Ferriss. It was someone. I'm going to turn my car into a university, and I'm going to use these drives down to the city every day. At least 2 hours in the car. As my university, I'm going to upskill myself. I'm going to motivate myself. I'm going to switch this attitude around. I soon found that coming back to an office on a daily basis wasn't something that was working for me. I imagine I'd been working by myself from home, and having that office environment probably wasn't wasn't really what I was after.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about, and I hope you're happy to go in this direction.
Yeah.
I started thinking about how can I try and do things a bit differently.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
the rest of this conversation, if we go that way, very, very clearly, I've got, I love the difference of all the different elements. I was listening to Adam in your interview on the way down here, and his story and how Ray White supported him and all of that. I love that, but I've created something different.
I see. And what was that different thing?
I wanted to create an agency where people are able to, particularly geared up for experienced agents who maybe are no longer into the office culture, have got their own database, they've been doing things for years, and they've got an option where they kind of think, well, I might like to run my own business, but I don't want to deal with all the stuff, all the the compliancy stuff and getting. I don't even want to get my agency's license, but I want to look like I'm my own office, and that's sort of what independent agent does, is allows people to work in that space.
Yeah, I see. Okay, so you, essentially, that office environment you felt wasn't conducive, and
it just wasn't for me anymore. And it was great. When I was younger, and it was amazing to feed off that energy. And I definitely see that for you. There's energy here, right? I walk in the door here, I'm greeted by some really nicely by some really nice people. Yeah. And everyone's there's energy here, and it's fabulous. But I just got to a point where I kind of wanted to just do my own thing, my own way. And I was like, well, if I can build this something that might suit me, if I had to sell, maybe I can get other people to believe in this idea and work in this space as well. Yeah.
And making that big decision. So I mean, was there a bit of avoiding the pain and not making the decision? And how
this is really cool. There's a story behind that. I mentioned Tim Ferriss was one of my sort of go-tos in my drives back and forth, and he's got a process called fear setting. Yeah. And it's a process you can go through. It's online. You can look it up. You go through there, and it takes a real big look at what you're missing out on if you don't do it. Yeah. So maintaining the status quo versus what's the lost opportunity cost. And I started looking at during that period of time, well, I've got this idea in my head. It's not going to cost me an enormous amount just to get it started at a basic level. It's something that I could work within. If no one else believes in it, at least I could do it. Yeah. So, and the potential outcome for me personally of that business would be it'd be a great business. It'd be something that's worth money. It's something that makes money. Versus staying where I am, where it's going to be sort of not so much opportunity. Probably the same costs.
Yeah. So it kind of works out the best case, worst case scenario if you were to go down a pathway.
Absolutely.
And you kind of figured out, even if you take the leap of faith, it's the worst case scenario. You'll still be able to go at a plan B. And it's still okay.
Yeah. And it hasn't really cost you that much to have a look. Yeah. It might cost you 6 months and a few $1,000s to take some time, and you'll know. You'll know, and you'll know whether it's going to, so it's a very low cost to find out something that has a huge gain. Yeah.
How long was that delayed? Was that a few months delayed?
Yeah, it would have definitely been a few months of serious consideration.
Okay. Yeah. So there was a big thing that you're thinking, deliberating again and again, writing it out,
thinking it through, bouncing it around, a few meetings, people telling me don't do it. Yeah. Which was fuel for me. It was like, don't do it. It's too hard. It's like, oh, that's a good reason to have another look. Not to say not taking good advice is a bad thing, but it was definitely like, well, they're saying don't do it. I kind of feel like I should. Yeah.
So then independent agent was born. And you created the company. And it was just yourself, and how big was the team initially?
It was myself and Kim, who I'd worked with at Iconista. You can look her up; she's on there. So she's operations manager. I think a little bit like my life. I think like this, and I go over there, and I go over there, and I go over there. Kim thinks in straight lines, and she's really important to me. And I sort of straight away said, I've got this idea. Have you got a few hours a day you could help me with it? I knew she was raising kids and bits and pieces. So,
yeah.
And she's like, I probably could handle a couple of hours a day. And so I started firing stuff at her, and she started putting it together. We started putting it together.
Awesome. How much money did you need to start this agency?
That's a really, really good question. It was not so much. I don't think I probably did. I reckon. I don't actually know the answer to that. So if you just today decided you wanted to start a real estate agency, without considering your time, it's going to cost you about $25,000 to get everything you need together, which is not an enormous amount of money. But what is enormous is the amount of time and energy you're going to have to put in for 6, 12, 18 months with potentially no income. And so that was the challenge. I think interest rates were still low then, so I've got a couple of properties, and that was bringing money into the family. And obviously, in this period, we could all have another whole thing down, COVID and lockdowns and all that carry on. But we could avoid that if you want, whatever. So there was some money coming in there, I guess, with while the interest rates were lower. There was some money aside to do it, so that sort of wasn't so much a problem. But there was definitely a threshold. It was like, if this doesn't work by this period of time, then I'll have to dream up something else or go selling. And it was interesting listening to Adam's conversation with you. Adam, his how he sort of struggled over 5 years to transition out of selling to business ownership. I sort of my initial thing was, I really don't want to sell unless I have to go into selling. We have it, in this business, it wouldn't probably harm much if I did. If I picked an area where I live, for example, to sell, there's not going to be me competing with other people in the team. Which, if Adam decided to go selling now, he's obviously be competing with his own team. But so it wouldn't hurt to do that, but it was unfortunately I didn't need to do that. We sort of found enough belief, people who could put deals together to start sort of for the business to start sort of funding itself.
Yeah, I see. Okay, so there was no sales from your side, just straight into management and just recruitment and building the systems. 6 to 12 months of just systems recruiting. What were the main challenges you faced during that period?
One of them was not knowing what I was doing. So, as you can imagine,
that's normal.
Yeah, that's normal. That's normal. So you sort of we grabbed the concept of and Kim is the opposite of this, and her and I we're obviously working really close together, building the bike as we go. Literally, Kim, I've got my first hire. Now we're going to have to try and figure out how to onboard them. So we'd got a CRM. We were using Rex software at the time. And we had a website, but we had to really know how to put someone on, and we didn't really know how to put. Oh yeah, by the way, they've got some properties they've got some listings. So we've got the listing forms from the REINZ, and we're sort of doing everything by email. So they'd email it back to me, and I'd sign it off and check it, and so we're sort of doing compliance. Like I was manually doing compliance, just figuring out how we were going to work. This might take a little while while we figure it out. Luckily, the first hire was very patient, understood what I was doing, and was a believer. And so definitely, and we continue that attitude, to this day. We're about 4 years in now. And I say to the admin team, if you see a problem, you've got to bring it up straight away. So it's a culture of making mistakes, finding errors, testing things till they break. Always keeping in mind that the goal is to have 4 times as many salespeople as we do, and doing a lot more deals than we're doing. All that stuff. So I'll say, can't you just sit in the sales meeting this week, or team admin meeting this week? Can't you just give them a call and ask them, how are we going to do that when there's 200 people, Matt? So encouraging the team to challenge me, and stick up for their guns and not be afraid to work in that sort of space.
Interesting. So you've built the team now. You've got a team of 30 agents, is it?
Yeah, it's probably more like 40, I think.
40 agents.
Now. We've got like 4 sort of offerings, I guess, within the business for salespeople. They can just have the independent agent brand alongside their name. they can have their own branch with their own identity on TradeMe and realestate.co and all of that, and their own branded paperwork, but still not have to have their own license, still operating under our license.
Okay.
And then a hybrid of that sitting in the middle where you sort of kind of got a bit of that and a bit of that.
Yep.
And then also supporting, maybe entire teams and businesses where they just like, well, we've got our own team already, we've got our own business, but we're kind of done with this. Can you take care of it? And so we can also make something work in that space.
Interesting. And what are kind of your points of difference in terms of the traditional agencies like the Barfoots, Ray Whites, and how does that differ in terms of maybe the income side or the support side? Or
definitely differences. So obviously having no office is one thing, so you need a printer or a scanner probably at home. People who need to come up to talk to someone to do things for them physically, so it's just not suitable for that kind of person. So there's all that suitability kind of thing, and we've got that wrong a number of times. I've hired someone, and they turn up and they don't know how to log into a new email address because someone's always done it for them. We've even had people that they've got in the door and they've never filled out their own sale and purchase agreement after many years in real estate. You're not really suitable because we're not filling out sales and purchase agreement service either. So that would be one thing definitely. You asked points of difference. We work on a higher than average commission split with the salespeople. That's to be expected.
So
I think
they can earn more money.
They can earn more money.
There's no office. They can earn more money. They can get up and running faster.
But I still think like when, in talking to them, this is the case. Some of our salespeople in our teams do have physical offices. So they're using some of that extra to, they're reinvesting that into marketing or they, so it's always a bit of a balance point. I think I'm always like, I've said to you, I'm not all about the money, and I'd say when I'm pitching people, like, guys, if you just don't it for the money, it's probably going to be not a huge amount of difference from what you could probably negotiate at a decent office, around the corner. But you've got to we've got people that have come from toxic office environments. It's great for them, right? They don't want anything to do with an office. We've had people that have had just no, you can't do that, butting their heads in branding. Well, of course you can do that. It's the whole point. Go try it and make a mistake. As long as you're compliant and you've got the right words in the right places, we're good with that. And just that brand freedom. What else sort of pushes people out? It's usually people pushing people out, right? Because there's when you leave an office, there's a push and there's a pull. There's a pull that something's good that you want to do, but there's also some reason to get you out of your inertia and push you off to the next thing. And so a lot of those pushes are to do with just the environment they're working in.
So drawing the comparison, here at Ray White, it's like you have to be in the office. If you're not in the office at least 4 or 5 days a week, then you can't work here. Because that's just that's the culture. It's just like you're locked in there. You have to be there. So it's interesting that there's different people that they don't want to be tied down to that. It's that flexibility.
And I think it's amazing. And I walk in here and I'm like, oh man, I can work here. Straight away, it's got a cool energy. It's got an amazing vibe, and I can see how this office breeds success. I can see why this office has higher than the national average commission earnings, gross commission earnings. It's really obvious. And having dealt with Adam and met with Adam, I know his energy as well. And I'm sure the rest of the team's like that. So I think there's a place I just think I'm coming from that place. I think there's a place for all of us. There's going to be someone at some point in an office like this where they're just like, oh my God, I'm sick of being here at this time. I'm sick of someone looking over my shoulder and, I'm just the water cooler chat's driving me crazy. And then they might look at some other options. And I think,
How, if you delved into more of the training side, would you train up people? Have you built a whole training platform so that someone could actually just jump into your thing straight away?
This is really an interesting space, and it's something like, as an ex-school teacher and as someone who likes to educate and share knowledge, it's really interesting because my target market is people who are experienced and don't really need that. And so I bring speakers in. I encourage people to, if I listen to a good podcast, I'm going to there's people in my team I'm going to share Adam and your conversation with because they're building teams and they're trying to build offices within our framework. So I'm going to send that to them. So anything I come across, I share. But as a business, we don't have a training library. I would probably outsource that. I think you've got something, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
I've built a library of about 6-7 hours of how I sold 52 in my first year.
Yeah.
And then I've sold it to probably about 15, 16 people. It's like $700 for the year.
Yeah.
And that's worked really well for some people. And it's just, what is the shortcut? Because there's 100 systems, and 10 are going to be really good, 10 are going to be really bad, but you want to choose the best one possible to get the fastest track for success. And why would you waste your time on anything else that's not the best system? Because it all is a system, because everyone's got 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
So we want to focus on that system and just duplicate that, and that's how we can get success really quick through the sales.
And that's the kind of thing that I think, that's where I would send people. So something like what you've done there.
Yeah.
I haven't got anything like that. Again, we've got experienced salespeople. The drawback with experienced salespeople sometimes is they think that they do know it all.
Yeah.
Not know it all, but they think they're set. I guess they're set. This is how I want to do it.
Yeah.
It's also great to bring in, as I said, I bring in speakers. We had, David Palfreyman came for a visit. Kevin Riedson, I think his name is. He came in for a visit. He's the guy that rode across the Atlantic.
Wow.
Or was it the Pacific? It would have been the Pacific. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that. Atlantic. Anyway, he did some rowing.
Did some rowing. Yeah, very good, very good.
We still get people in, but again, a structured sales course we do not have.
Yeah. Okay. So that could be the next level, because then it opens yourself up to the inexperienced marketplace.
I think tricky with there's a 6-month period of supervision.
Yeah.
Where you're not allowed to really do much. I think that's tricky for us as a remote business.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be recruiting and grabbing people after the first 6 months. In the future, maybe. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very good. Very good.
Yeah.
With say growing your independent agency, was there any really tough things, like once you're up and running after the first 2 years? Mm-hmm. What are the challenges now? Like as you look into things, what are the challenges?
I've got people. You're running numbers and you're running budgets, and you're like, okay, I would expect these people to be doing this.
Yeah.
And you've obviously bucked a trend here yourself personally, but there are people that were writing, over $1 million in my team that are writing sort of close to half of that at the moment, and as a state of the market.
Yeah.
And so that has been one of my challenges. I hate blaming the market, because I'm always trying to push like we're better than the market. We can outdo the market. But sometimes you're looking at some of the sales stats in some areas and there's just no sales.
Yeah.
And that's pretty tough. Apart from that, we're doing something kind of new, and I know there's other players in this space in the country at the moment, and some of them are international brands. There is one other national brand that's kind of similar, and there is Ray White, particularly in Auckland, I think, Harcourts and Barfoots in the northern part of New Zealand. They've got they're everywhere, right? They're on the back of buses. The brand awareness and overcoming that in a recruitment basis, but also for my team, is one of our major challenges. So we've obviously got some scripts and dialogues around how an independent agent comes and sits down with someone. And how they can get business, how they can be selected for their business if they're if there's 3 or 4 other agents playing for it.
Yeah.
So we do a bit of training and talk around that when people first start. That would definitely be a hurdle. But people before they come to us are like, well, how do you deal with this?
Yeah.
So we've got resources on that. One of the, what did you ask? You asked barriers to success.
Yeah.
I still think we're still in quite an early phase of our business, I think, as well. I'm probably still doing a little bit more than I should be, and it's finding where I sit within the business. So freeing me up. My best place. There's there's a few people that have left. I've probably recruited 50 people, and we've probably retained 40
Yeah.
over that period of time.
Oh, wow.
From zero.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm probably best to be doing,
Is
to be recruiting.
Speaking to people,
Yeah.
selling them.
Yeah. And I've done a number of structures and bits and pieces around that. You know, you talk about your systems and your structures. So I've done a number of those.
Yeah.
And you'll sort of try something and you wear it out.
Yeah.
There's a real challenge as well. The real estate agency has to face the public. It has to look good for particularly vendors, right?
Yeah.
It has to look really good for purchasers,
Mm.
particularly vendors, but it also has to look good in front of real estate agents. And that's been a challenge because I haven't got a playbook. I haven't got the Ray White playbook or the Ray White, 150 years or whatever of Barfoot and Thompson or whatever, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I've sort of got to write my own playbook of how am I going to look good, established to vendors and to prospective salespeople.
Yeah.
That's quite a challenge. That's that's an everyday challenge. That's a bang my head. That's like I've got marketing guys on, on retainer working on that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So because your success in real estate as an agent, a lot of that was all sending letters, and that was your marketing avenue. And now you can't really send letters to agents.
I don't think the team were very happy. Oh, we've got like 80 letters have turned up addressed to salespeople. It's
Yeah. So it's kind of a different. It's now branding. Now you've got social media. You've got the reels. You've got YouTube. You've got podcasts.
Yeah.
So it's kind of how do we create that brand and that vision
Absolutely.
and share that, because it's really good that you've got this niche, and the niche is really, because if once you niche down more and more, you find people that really suit it well, which is, you've proven the concept. You got 40 people there.
Yeah.
All right, how do we double that? How do we 3x, 4x it?
Absolutely.
And it's how do we create that brand to find that person and get out there?
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I get ideas. I'll be out for a run or a walk, and I'll have that's a good marketing idea. We try it, so we have got ways of quickly iterating, quickly showing, quickly trialing.
Yeah.
But it's still never quick enough for me,
Yeah. Interesting. Very good.
Yeah.
So the next couple of years are looking, is it just to scale this business?
That's really my focus and priority. I think when the market does turn and the volume's going to increase, it's going to increase for everyone.
Yeah.
That will happen. That will put strains on us. I know it will. So that'll be, and that's staff and people power. Yeah. So at the moment I'm trying to get my existing, and it's working quite well, getting my existing admin team, which are all New Zealand based, to think of themselves as leaders in their space. Yeah. We've sort of siloed it into marketing, listings, beginning of the process, and contracts at the end of the process.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how I've broken up the marketing.
Yeah.
The sales process, but for them to think of themselves as leaders, as managers, and be ready to have all your systems. We're creating video content internally of every single system, every process, every variation, so you can hand part of that job off, because the day is going to come where there are not going to be enough hours in the day for you to be processing every contract that comes through, for example.
Yeah.
And so that's one of our things that we're really big on. So get the Loom subscription, and video document everything you do. Just do it. We just get them to do it. We push record, do the process, talk through it, think talk.
Yeah.
One of our girls' first language is Afrikaans, so she slips into Afrikaans and has to go back and talk it in English. And that kind of thing. So and some of that will go overseas. So some of that second tier of work will go overseas.
Yeah.
To the Philippines,
virtual
probably.
Assistants,
yeah. So we've got a couple of those already in accounts, and sort of picking up marketing pieces as well.
Yeah.
For some of our basic sort of internal marketing and things. So, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Very good. So how many interviews would you do a week with potential team members that you want to bring on? Yeah,
it's a really good question. I've got a combination of, I was doing this for 4 years now, so there's people I've been speaking to for 4 years.
Okay.
They get fairly regular conversations from me, just a phone call, see how they're going, just the same as prospecting vendors.
Yeah.
I've got telemarketers phoning through. Probably you might have been phoned. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I've got telemarketers phoning through people. That is one of my strategies for growing. We have a follow-up system where I get on the phone if it's need be, or else they just send information, whatever. We do a bit of cold email, which nobody really likes. I don't even like it, but we sort of do it occasionally. Try to get the vibe right. Try to get the tone right. I think a business is an expression of the owner, and as I've said to you, I've got a little bit of creativity going on with myself, so my business, I want it to be an expression of who I am, and I want to attract people that fit within that. So one of my tools that I use is like what you're doing with your weekly podcast, doing a weekly blog, which goes out to a few thousand people each week.
Oh really? Wow. A couple of thousand.
And as well as, we post it on media and bits and pieces. But that helps to, it's like your newsletter. It's like your vendor newsletter. It goes out, it gets in front of people. Even, you're putting your for sale on, but it's for your vendors, right? Because you want your vendors to see what you're doing, same sort of thing. And it's I get lots of unsubscribes, and that's great. We don't need unsubscribes, but we're also always attracting people to that newsletter. And they read it, and then every now and again, Matt, I read your blah 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 every week. Keep it up, and that's exactly what it's there for. The day they get that push, I'm hoping that I'll be there to pull. So
you're just funneling this knowledge, condensing it, putting this in this newsletter, and providing value at the end of the day, and insights. And sometimes you provide jagged edges, but people connect with those jagged edges to yourself, and that's where we're trying to grow other people as well. And
absolutely.
It's kind of giving back as well. You learn, create your lessons, and teach them.
It's full of mistakes and disappointments, that blog, as well as successes and victories. So
that's very good, very good. So looking back at, say, the past couple of years or your whole working career, I mean, if you were to say, give yourself some advice back then, what would you be telling yourself? It's
a great question. As I was driving down here, I was hoping, I hope he doesn't ask me that one. there's a couple of things I did give a little bit of thought. So there's a couple of things there. One is probably, and I've sort of said, my life's gone a little bit like that. I reckon I could have done quite well to take myself a little bit more seriously, and have been a little bit more, considerate of the path. I reckon as a younger person, like in my 20s, and I was listening to Adam, but he's saying he was 18, he was selling. Like, I didn't even know what money was until I was in my mid 30s. I'm in my mid 40s now. Maybe late 40s. The world of possibility wasn't open to me just due to my family circumstances, and so I would have loved to. I would show my younger self what's possible. And have some belief in myself. That would have been, take myself a bit more seriously. Those are the kind of things I'd probably tell my younger self. And to look after myself a bit better. Mentally, physically, look after yourself. You don't get any younger as you get past 40, particularly.
That's it. What do you do these days to look after yourself?
Part of living out where I do is to have a physical lifestyle. So I'm on a farm block. There's always sort of work to be done, be it a bit of fencing or tree planting or something. There's always something to be done. But the great thing is everything takes, like, to do a little job. You got to get off your ass and you got to go for a walk to do it. But I also run. I've got a gym at home, so I've got the weight rack and I've got the pull-up bar and all those sort of things. Into all that stuff. Try and get enough sleep. All that stuff.
Eat well. Good sleep.
That's
exercise.
Right.
Move the body. Get out in nature.
I'm big on nature. I actually was doing. A guy called me. I've been speaking to him for a number of years, actually, and he called me last week. This is quite, and same with vendors, like when they're ready to go, they go, right? So this guy, he's known me previously. We'd worked together. I'd said, you should consider us as a future place to work. I got the phone call, but I was down the back paddock fencing, but it was in work time. So I'll do this stuff. I'll be like, I need to get out of the office. I've kind of meetinged out, and I went down and fixed a fence. And then this recruitment call comes, and I know the guy likes to talk. I know it's going to last a while. So I put my tools down, sat in the paddock, and had a conversation. So that's kind of how I like to work, and that's fluidity within that space. I know it's a bit different to coming into the office every day, but that's kind of how I like to work. And great conversation with him, a second conversation, and he's joined. But again, just that that's how I like to work.
Yeah. Interesting. Last question as we wrap up. Are there any like key books that you've read, or what books have you read that's kind of changed your pathway?
Yeah, really, really good question. I am quite a big reader. I will often take, and I've mentioned Tim Ferriss, I'll often take recommendations from his podcasts and either purchase a book, order it and get it sent in, or listen as I'm driving around. Definitely the concepts in the 4-Hour Work Week and the Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. I wouldn't necessarily suggest sitting down and reading those cover to cover, but having those available to pick up and flick through, really valuable. I got a lot from the 80-20 rule, Richard Koch, I want to say. So look that one up. You can look in your business. And it's not just as simple as 80-20. Oh, there's 80% of the people here are doing, You can analyze your business, and you can look. Actually, my business, 10% of my income is coming from this, and 90% is coming from this, and you can do some really cool analysis of your business, worth doing. You could break it down to suburbs as a real estate agent. You could marketing activities. Lead sources, everything like that. So that would be a good one to look at. But I also need to feed my brain outside of business. There's a million business books. They Ask You Answer. Really good one. I've forgotten the author. I'm working towards that in my business now. So have a look at that. It's like having all your, all those difficult questions that people ask you, have them published and available. Really cool. 21 Questions for the 21st Century by Yuval Noah Harari is a must read for everybody. And currently on my bookshelf that I read lots of books at once. Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. Nice way to get a bit of spirituality in there.
Very good. Very good. Cool. Awesome. Look, Matt, I think let's wrap it up here.
Thanks, man.
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. I appreciate your time.
Good to have
Thanks.
you.
Likewise. Love being here. Thanks.
Awesome.